According to a recent Nanos poll, the majority of Canadians who live on the prairies want to see a new federal finance minister. Brian Lilley, our contributor, joins me once again via Skype from Ottawa. Brian, Bill Morneau's popularity is plummeting here out west.
I'm surprised it's just out west and not more widespread, although I do think that his popularity overall is taking a hit, regardless of what part of the country you live in. But I do understand, particularly out west, you've got an awful lot of people that are already hurting, a lot of small businesses, especially in the service side of the oil and gas sector. They're already hurting. Then they're called tax cheats. Then they're told you can't do this. You've got the doctors. You've got the farmers who were told they couldn't pass on their family farm without huge taxes. And then they find out that, one of the reasons that Bill Morneau has that lovely villa in France held in a private French corporation is it makes it easier to pass it on without tax repercussions to his children. So there's a lot of reasons that Canadians in general and people on the prairies in particular would have not to be overly pleased with this finance minister. But here's the thing. I don't think he's going anywhere, Hal. A little while ago, I was speculating with Pierre Bourque from Bourque.com about, is Bill Morneau on the way out? I mean, this guy, his small business tax changes were a disaster for the government. It should have been simple to do. If they had done their consultations with small business properly, it should have been simple to do. It wasn't. It caused them months of headaches. Then you get the stories coming out about the Morneau-Chappelle and the fact that he introduced a bill that would help his company while he still owned tens of millions of dollars worth of shares in it, that he was sprinkling the income to his wife, doing all the things that he had blasted small businesses for. I thought, this guy's got to go. But he's not going anywhere. Instead, he's getting the support of the government and the support of their official newspaper of record. The Toronto Star had the biggest fluff piece I've ever seen in my political career.
And Tory MP Pierre Poilievre was asking him repeatedly in committee, when are we going to see the balanced budget? Will it be balanced in 2020? And again, he skirted around the issue over time and time again. He just can't answer a straight question with a straight answer. He just can't do it.
No, he doesn't. Moneybags Morneau knows how to skate. That much we know. We got to see pictures of him playing hockey in this Toronto Star fluff piece that referred to him as Bruce Wayne. This is what the Star's big expose on the weekend was that Bill Morneau's staff have a nickname for him. It's Bruce Wayne, because just like the mega wealthy industrialist who has an alter ego of Batman, Bill Morneau went into politics to fight for the little guy. Well, he seems very disconnected from the little guy, and it's difficult when you hear them saying what a great job he's doing, and Canadians have a different point of view. Even his promises, and we can get into this in a moment. You've got a government that, a finance minister in this government that promised 3 small deficits, balanced budget by 2019. And now it's deficits as far as the eye can see. The deficit's much larger. They tried to congratulate themselves for not having a $30 billion deficit, only an $18 to $19 billion deficit. Well, that's still almost double what they promised. And yet on their promise tracker website that they've got, I'm looking at the not being pursued section. That's their broken promises. It's not even on there.
Now, the Liberals are spending more and more of our tax dollars, $5.6 million on the new arena on the Hill. Isn't there the Rideau Canal? You can kind of skate on that close by. And now Canada Post spending over $500,000 to wrap up their building construction. What's going on?
Yeah, well, we all know when buildings are being restored or you're having work done on them, you got scaffolding all around them. Well, just steps from Parliament Hill, very prestigious piece of real estate in Ottawa, and a beautiful building at the corner of Spark Street and Elgin. One of those grand old post office buildings that we just don't see anymore. How it's under reconstruction. They are trying to restore it. But the wrap they put on it cost $500,000. Just the latest example of the government not minding its pennies. Well, we don't have the penny anymore. Maybe it's nickels and dimes, and instead it's nickel and diming us to death. As far as this arena goes, look, the Rideau Canal normally doesn't freeze over until January, and then it's spotty. It was one season, it opened January 3rd, went right through March without a break. That was great. But they decided for Canada 150, which ends at the end of December, they wanted to put a skating rink on Parliament Hill. Well, how this thing's nicer than your kid's local rink that they're going to go play hockey in. Let me tell you, it's got stands in it, it's got boards, it's fully refrigerated, it's got home and away team benches. I'm told that not only will the Senators practice there one time, but they might do a veterans game.
Wow.
Where the old timers come back and play off against each other. So you'll see Alfie's team going up against Chris Phillips' team, which is all great. But did taxpayers have to pay $5.6 million for that? And here's the kicker: the rink is only going to be up for 3 weeks. When I first took pictures of this, going up for one of our hits, one of our chats on the Hill, I saw pictures of it. I thought this looks kind of neat. Put up photos, and immediately people had the gut reaction of, I can't believe they're wasting our money on this. And I thought, that's a little cringy. Come on. How much can it cost? Well, $5.6 million, apparently.
That's right. Now, speaking of spending taxpayers' dollars, fixing the Phoenix pay system for federal employees could cost $1 billion. And it was supposed to save the government, what, about $70 million a year?
It was supposed to save $70 million a year. Of course, it was going to cost a few $100 million to develop. And to give people the backstory, this is the pay system that is supposed to pay every federal civil servant across the country. They used to have, several different, depending on what department you were in, several different software systems, several different payroll systems. And they were all coming to the end of their life and they needed to be replaced. And so under the Harper government, they said, hey, why don't we try and put in one pay system for all? We'll simplify, we'll reduce costs. We're going to be spending millions to fix this anyway, so let's do it all at once. I think it was about $300 million project to replace all the pay systems. But these things are supposed to last years and years and years. And then it was going to save $70 million a year. Well, but now they're having to fix it because the Liberals went with it too early. This is a joint blame problem. It started under the Conservatives. It wasn't ready before the election. The Liberals got in. The bureaucrats, the unions, all told them, this thing's not ready. Don't do it. And they pushed the button go within months of taking office, February of 2016. Some people, Hal, did not get paid from February until December. Others were not getting paid enough. Some were getting paid too much. I know of 2 different cases. One, I believe it was $17,000 magically showing up in someone's bank account. Another person, $20,000 overpaid on one payday. And then when they tried to give the money back, the government didn't know what to do or how to do it. And their friends are saying, hey, just go spend the money. And they're like, I'm not paying tax on this. I'm not getting the penalties. On the weekend, Carla Qualtrough, the minister in charge over at Public Works, admitted it could cost $1 billion. So I did the quick math. $70 million a year it's supposed to save us. That's 14 years worth of savings. The system may need replaced either by then or shortly after then. Sure. Yeah. And it's going to be almost 2 years. It will be 2 years before this thing is fixed. Just a disaster because the Liberals didn't test it and they didn't listen to the people in charge who said, this isn't ready yet.
Now, speaking of disasters, I guess Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is a little bit of a PR disaster. He skipped the Remembrance Day ceremonies in Canada, go to Vietnam, then I guess skip the meeting that left a lot of the other leaders fuming because the TPP, apparently the PM says, it was just a scheduling conflict at another meeting that was running late. And now Trudeau and the Philippines president they got into it? What happened?
Okay, so, if you listen to Justin Trudeau's advisors, and they're very active on social media for things like this, they'll tell you the PM was a rock star. And we've all seen the photos of him going to order fried chicken at a fast food place in the Philippines, and he was mobbed, and he's taking selfies with the staff, and he walks into a hotel lobby to check in, and people are going crazy for him. Okay, great. But what about our actual allies? Well, he angered a lot of Canadians by deciding to go to these summits instead of being in Ottawa for Remembrance Day. Look, I don't fault him for that. I get it. These summits, they involve many countries, many of which don't mark that day. And so to them, it's no big deal. So they're having the summit. We've got to be there. But you expect them to get results. And he went and his trade minister, François-Philippe Champagne, is negotiating an update to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. This is the trade deal that will link us in with Asia, be a bulwark against Chinese dominance in the region. All of a sudden, when he's supposed to show up for a renegotiated agreement, all the leaders are there and they're going to sign it and they're expecting Canada to show up, he bails. He just simply doesn't show. And that left an awful lot of those leaders angry. The quote in one of the Australian media outlets was, "Canada screwed everyone." Countries were furious. So great. Fast food workers in the Philippines love you. Our allies are angry at you. Now, in the end, we did get a deal somewhat. They're trying to play this off as Justin Trudeau was tough and was able to negotiate a better deal. Well, yes and no. They just left everything that he disagreed with hanging until later. So some of it's going to move forward, some of it will not. But he didn't get a better agreement. He got an agreement with parts of it left in suspension. So that's not good. And then just yesterday, he goes to the Philippines and he raises human rights issues with Filipino President Rodrigo Duterte. Now, I have no problem with our prime minister raising human rights, but Duterte did. And he basically told all world leaders, stop getting your information from our opposition and from communists. We have a drug problem. We're taking care of it, but we're not doing all the things they say. And he took Trudeau's intervention as a personal insult, he said.
Wow. Now, in the middle of trade talks, Environment Minister Catherine McKenna went a little out of her way to antagonize the Americans over coal. A little bit of backlash on that too?
Yeah, I don't get this. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't ever say, hey, we're Canada, we're different. But, you've got this climate treaty going on, a climate conference going on in Bonn. The United States is moving back towards coal. Her tweets aren't going to change that. They're not going to stop it. But what they could do, certainly, is antagonize, because she timed the tweets to be going off as the United States is talking about this. She's essentially trolling them on Twitter. This is the same minister who's just a week ago was in trouble for welcoming Syria into the Paris Climate Agreement. Syria? You're serious? A country that kills its own people, that uses sarin gas? She blamed that on her staff. Catherine McKenna is very active on social media. A lot of politicians are, and a lot of them, frankly, Hal, should just stop it because it gets them in trouble. And this is another example where Catherine McKenna could be getting into trouble, or maybe not herself, because her and her supporters will love this. But if the Americans are annoyed at us, and they're already not crazy that we're pursuing the Trans-Pacific Partnership without them, they've pulled out, what's all of this going to do for the NAFTA talks?
Well, we're talking about social media. Not only McKenna, but Trump likes the fact that he's up to 280 characters as well. He's kind of a Twitterholic too. Okay, just before I let you go here, with McKenna and Morneau and Trudeau, the Liberals' popularity, they're kind of dropping a little dip in the polls?
It's tightened up in several polls now, with the Liberals dropping a bit, the Conservatives coming up a bit. Conservative leader Andrew Scheer is on the road constantly trying to get Canadians to know him, which is what Justin Trudeau did, and it worked successfully for him. And the Conservatives are about to launch a new ad introducing Scheer to the general public. So all of this is happening. The Liberals are still ahead by a decent margin, but the reason it's significant, this drop, is that they've been unassailable since they were elected 2 years ago. But now, instead of having two opposition parties with interim leaders, they've got two opposition parties, both much younger than Justin Trudeau, both attractive in the same ways that he is for the youth and the vigor and all of that. And now it's starting to chip away at him between Scheer and Jagmeet Singh. So it'll be interesting to see where things go.
Fighting fire with fire, and who knew that Justin Trudeau would be the old man of the bunch? That's interesting. Brian Lilley, our Bridge City News contributor, thanks a lot for joining us again from Ottawa.
Thank you.